Okay, once again, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining Peer's October meeting. And if you're just zooming in, please drop in the chat where you are joining us from. So my name is Catherine Zoka, and I'm co-chair of Peer. Peer is Progressive East End Reformers. And Peer members live on the Shinnecock, Montaukett, and Manhasset Nation lands. We're grateful for the stewardship that these First Americans have conducted on the lands and the waters so that we can actually enjoy them today. We are greatly indebted to their presence on this land, and we support their presence on this land and going forward in many different ways. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Peer, Peer is a chapter of New York Progressive Action Network, NYPAN, and also of Indivisible. And we have been working for the last 8+ years on issues around the topics of social justice, healthcare, housing, and really all issues that affect the lives of Long Islanders. And I'll drop in the chat in a little while how you can actually join and become a member of Peer if you would like to. We welcome you to join us, and you get to then vote on a lot of the different positions that we take over the course of the year. So tonight's meeting, ICE on Long Island, we're very pleased. We have two special guests with us tonight. We have Minerva Perez from OLA and Osman Canales. Now, I want to emphasize that there are many people on Long Island that are involved in protecting our immigrant neighbors and friends. And so our guests tonight are just two of the many. We did reach out to the Rural and Migrant Ministries in Riverhead to join us, but their spokesperson had a conflict. So we hope to have her speak at a future meeting and others who who are doing work on Long Island. I also will share later on some information from an ISLIP organization, Alianza ISLIP. So there's a lot of us and our neighbors and friends who are living now in fear and anxiety. So I just want to pause and say, let's remember we're not alone. We're in this together. We're part of a robust network of democracy defenders, and all of those defenders are working hard to help others and to save our democracy. And in line with that, I want to just give a shout out to the long list of co-sponsors for the meeting tonight. This event is co-sponsored by Assemble Long Island, Bend the Arc, the East Hampton Democrats, Indivisible Long Island Progressive Coalition, Long Island Network for Change, NYPAN statewide organization, South Country Peace Group, the Southampton Democrats, and Suffolk Progressives. So that's a nice list of people who are in solidarity tonight with the challenge that our immigrant neighbors and friends are facing. So what can you expect for the meeting tonight? We're going to have a guided discussion on ICE in our communities. We're going to highlight the ICE activities will be highlighted. The impact on the immigrant population will be discussed. The impact on local businesses and how immigrants living in fear are impacting business on Long Islanders will be discussed. The local law enforcement's position, whether or not they cooperate or not with ICE, and how we can help. So during the course of the conversation between Osman and Minerva, if you have a question, please drop it in the chat. And at the end, we will get to the questions, and Jerry Maslanka, who's a member of Peers Corps, is going to moderate the chat and ask the questions. So just some brief introductions to begin. Osman Canales is founder and president of Long Island Immigrant Student Advocates. He arrived from El Salvador at 10 years old, and he has been a community activist since he was in high school, working on issues around Dreamers, working on Green Light New York, and many other issues around the immigrant community. He is also president of the Long Island Latino Association, and he lives in Western Suffolk. Minerva Perez is executive director of OLA of Eastern Long Island. OLA works to create a more equitable East End for Latino immigrants by advocating for just and inclusive government and school policies, by protecting families, and by nurturing power and unity among Latinos through leadership workshop and other programs. Minerva lives in Eastern Suffolk. So we're going to start the conversation tonight with Osman sharing his screen and showing what it's like for our immigrant population when ICE is in their neighborhood, and he will set up the video and describe it. So Osman, please.
Yes, good evening, everyone. A pleasure being here. Thank you so much for the invitation. Before I go on to speak about my experience this couple of, this year, since January, I would like to share a video. This is an actual video that I recorded myself. Every morning I leave home to monitor the community. And this is from Patchogue, where I was alerted that ICE was in the community outside an apartment complex arresting people on their way to work. So I arrived to the location. They had already arrested some individuals and they had pulled over a vehicle with 4 workers. So the video you're going to watch now, it's the moment that they are taking 4 workers that were on their way to work in Patchogue. So I'm going to share my screen. Sorry about that. Hopefully you can see my screen here.
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, this is... To arrest this person. Do you have a warrant? No diga nada. No diga nada. No conteste preguntas. No conteste preguntas. Tiene el derecho a mantenerse en silencio. No conteste preguntas. No contesten preguntas. No firmen nada. No firmen nada. Guardia silencio. Tiene derecho a mantenerse en silencio. Why are you filming me? What are you filming me for? No contesten preguntas. No firmen nada. Do you have a warrant to be here? Do you have a warrant to arrest these people? Yes, you are with ICE. Yes, you are with ICE. Okay. Do you think I believe you? I'm not gonna believe you. Do you have a warrant? Do you have a warrant? No contesten preguntas. Oh, I know this guy. Do you have a warrant to arrest this person? No contesten preguntas. No firmen nada. No firmen nada. No contesten preguntas. No contesten preguntas. No firmen documentos. No contesten preguntas. 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 No firmen nada. No firmen documentos. No contesten preguntas. No firmen documentos. Do you have a warrant to arrest these people? These are workers on their way to work. Shame on you. Shame on you for arresting workers. Shame on you for arresting workers. Do you have a warrant to arrest them? Did you tell them you want the warrant? Shame on you for arresting workers. Shame on you for arresting workers. No firmen nada, no contesten preguntas, pidan hablar con un abogado. Pidan hablar con un abogado, no contesten preguntas. No vayan a dar información, no contesten preguntas. They do not have a warrant. Shame on them for not having a warrant and arresting workers. Shame on them. Shame. Separating families. Separating families. Innocent workers that are being taken. Separating families. Shame on them. You do not have a warrant. You do not have a warrant. And you are taking workers. Shame on you. Shame on you. Right here. There's the cards that they have. Shame on you for arresting workers. On you. Shame on you for arresting workers. Shame on you for arresting workers, innocent people. Shame on you. Don't you have families? Don't you have children, what are you going to tell your children? That you separate your families, that you left children without their parents? Shame on you. Shame on you. Hurry to arrest this person.
Very emotional. Every time I watch that video, it's just so upsetting. So many emotions. I feel like I'm right there in the moment. I want to do everything to prevent that arrest. Obviously, we cannot intervene. We cannot obstruct any arrests because then we will get arrested, and that's obviously something we don't want. They did arrest someone at another occasion in Patchogue. Some of you might have seen her post. Um, she was she did the same thing, and they just handcuffed her and put her in their vehicle. Police arrived, and she has relationship with the police, and they were able to let her free. But yes, that had happened. I don't know if you want me to move on or should I post here and
Yeah, why don't you pause there for just a moment? Thank you.
okay.
First of all, I mean,
Thank you.
the comments in the chat, I mean, it's really heart-wrenching to watch that. And we thank you for sharing it, and we know it's a triggering moment for you, but we appreciate your bravery in doing that. I know this morning Minerva was in Riverhead facing maybe something of a similar situation. So I would like to maybe ask her to share a little bit about that, and also maybe tell us what can we do when we see this happening in terms of videos, not just taking them, where do we send them? So Minerva, maybe if you could address that and tell us what happened today.
Yeah, I will. And thank you, Osman. Osman has been just a warrior out there and in places where there's just much sort of bolder actions from ICE, a lot more confrontation. They're there. What we're seeing in the East End of Long Island is a lot of actions that are, um, they're quicker. They're in and they're out. And by the time we get there, they're gone. So happening at 6:30 in the morning or wherever they're happening. So by the time that we know them to be there, we're generally getting calls from the folks who are directly affected, whether that is people that have just lost the breadwinners of the family, lost brothers, lost sisters. So we are hearing about it directly from folks, but not necessarily having the same experience, which I think is just really rough. It is rough to watch the emotion of that, the helplessness of it. But knowing at the same time that by documenting, by witnessing, by being that voice that so many people are now hearing Osman out there and his bravery and encouraging other people to do things, but do things in a way that is safe for themselves, for their families. You can't control other people, but the work that Ola's doing right now with our rapid response, it's Operation Stand and Protect, is one of a few different groups of people that are across, I would say, even the East End. Greenport has a small group. They have a chat. You've got some folks in Riverhead. You've got folks in different areas, even of the East End of Long Island. What we wanted to do as an organization serving the full East End of Long Island is see if we could find the right tool that was not a chat, because chats can be good for other reasons, community, solidarity, support, solace, but they are not a great way to have a quick and efficient way of getting people out someplace, receiving the information, knowing what's going on, getting more people out if you need to, gathering that information in a way that does not take away someone's confidentiality. So we don't want to have pictures of people, targets of these attacks and actions. We don't want their pictures all over a rapid response that has 200 people on it. We don't want their home addresses on that. So what we have created is something that runs through WhatsApp, because Signal doesn't have an option like this. And it's a one-way tool to get information out to this group of rapid responders, let them know we have something that's going on at this address or this intersection in Riverhead. Let us know by text, which is a different number, if you can be there, and then how long is it going to take for you to get there? So it's a very quick action. They text back to us, yes, I could be there in 10 minutes. We don't need to hear, no, I can't be there because I'm working today. We don't need to hear that. Just, can you be there and how quickly you're going to be there? And as soon as we're able to get people there to verify there is something going on, because sometimes we don't want to send out 50 people. You can't keep doing that and sort of exhausting everyone. So we're trying to either get staff out or volunteers that are already in that area to quickly verify and then very, very quickly say, no, that's what we did today. In Riverhead, there were a lot of unmarked cars. It was definitely ICE. We verified that by the paperwork that they actually probably forced this guy to sign, but he did sign this paperwork. So we got a copy of that. We confirmed it was ICE, and then we very quickly sent as many people out as we possibly could. And that's also why I went out. But the reality is that
So if you could describe, I'm sorry, Minerva,
yeah.
when you arrived on the scene, was he still there and what
No.
actually, okay.
He was gone. So by the time I got there, and I knew this was, I was calling people along the way, was that he was already taken. But a lot of what we do with rapid response is not just documenting, witnessing, hoping to deter, because in large numbers, what we see in other spaces, which we haven't really gotten to, at least on the east end of Long Island, although I think with certain parts of Western Suffolk and some of the folks doing the work that Osman's doing, you might get to a point where there is a level of deterrence, maybe. But on the east end of Long Island, because we haven't gotten there yet, a lot of what we're also focusing in on is being able to know who was affected, who was left behind. So when we're able to now we're working immediately with the wife. We're already trying to connect a lawyer to that person who's been detained, because they work so quickly. So you can be detained in Yaphank and in a matter of hours end up in, New Orleans, and a matter of hours after that end up God knows wherever they're going to send you, right? So it's being able to be in that moment. So rapid response serves a number of things. We're also gathering all that data. So if we, but we're not like actively doing anything with it until we know that someone is showing up missing from a particular area. Well, if I had a rapid responder there and I know in that corner, the last time that person that was seen is in that corner and then they're gone, and I have an image of a license plate of a car that they probably got into, there's ways that we're using that information to make sure we can track people that may be taken where we don't know where they are, and people are not going to take responsibility for taking them. So these are some of the things that we're doing, but we're trying to do them in ways that are still confidential. So that's sort of the way that we're sort of managing that.
Okay. No, thank you for that. And if someone on this Zoom would like to join a rapid response group, how can they do that?
I'll share just what OLA's is, and then to let you know that the way that it is working really well is that I'll give you the number to text, and then actually I put it in the chat here. It's best that if you could use that QR code. Don't call the OLA office number, but just use that QR code. It just gives us basic information. If you don't feel comfortable with that, because what we're trying to do also, at least a little bit, is vet people. We can't we're vetting everyone. It doesn't mean people can't get by that actually hate immigrants. But what we're trying to do is just get an understanding of why someone wants to be part of this rapid response. For the worst case scenario, could there be bad people that are bad actors that want to show up at one of these things and then deter, the rapid responders potentially? They might show up anyway, but we are trying to do a little bit of vetting. So that's why we're asking these questions. If you don't feel comfortable with those and you don't want to answer those questions, you could always use this number, which I'll put in the chat, but it's basically 631-631 500-5001. And that text number is a way to alert if you feel that something, you don't have to verify that it's ICE. You might just see, 4 black Escalades or unmarked cars, and it feels like it's ICE to you. That's enough of a reason to text that number. That's Ola's number, and say, you don't have to say your name. I'm on the corner of so-and-so, so-and-so. It's this date, it's this time, and I'm seeing these cars. These are the license plates. You don't have to take a picture if you don't feel comfortable. You can just write down the license plate number, text it to us. And at that moment, we're going to then take it and blast it out and say, can people get out there and verify? The good thing is that the group in Greenport is also letting us know if they're seeing something, and we're putting it out. Their people are on our rapid response, so they're putting that out there as well. So that crossover is not causing a problem. It's just, where are you getting your information? If you want to be on a couple different notifications, then better to do that than feel like there's only one that's going to cover everything. I think it's better that we're kind of doing it in a way that's just as expansive as we can be.
Great. Well, thank you for that. And just a quick question, then I want to pivot back to Osman and to discuss actions further west. Is there a difference in the ICE presence on the East End in East Hampton versus Southampton versus Riverhead, Hampton Bays? I mean, just if you could briefly address that.
Osman, do you want that or do you want me to do
Um,
that?
well, either one. I don't care.
Me? Okay. Okay. I'm asking Osman, but
He's
okay.
you're muted. Okay.
Okay. I just want to make sure, because you said Osman. I didn't want to jump in. So I mean, the difference is that these are targeted. They're all targeted. I mean, with Riverhead today, the worst raid that we've seen on the East End, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but this is even goes back to Trump 1. And during Trump 1, we had raids. We had random people pulled up in the car. We had random house stops. But the worst thing that we've seen so far in the East End has really been Greenport, showing up at 9 a.m. on a Sunday where people are doing their laundry with nobody that they're looking for and just randomly using the ruse that ICE uses, which is, here's a picture of the guy, and in Spanish, the ICE officer saying, hey, we're doing an investigation. Can you help me out? In Spanish to someone doing their laundry, and they show them a picture of someone, whether they're real or not, and the person stops because they want to help. They want to help with an investigation. And that's how they got one of these guys. Thank God they let him go. And we're now working with him. We've got him connected to a lawyer. And every 2 weeks, we have to get him to Syosset because God forbid he misses that appointment. That's it. That's enough to take him. But he stopped and tried to talk to the ICE officer, said, okay, well, what's your name? Where are you from? Do you have any ID? And this man shows him that, and then they get ready to take him away. And thank God his kids, his twin boys were with him, and they put up a major fuss. And eventually, finally, they said, here, just you have to show up to ISLIP in 2 days. And that was a Sunday. So the reality is that that's one of the worst raids that we've seen. It was clearly not targeting anybody but random people doing their laundry. Certainly some things have been happening in East Hampton, a little bit in Hampton Bays, in Riverhead. But I think one thing I want to say, Catherine, really quickly, is that we have to be careful because in the past, it may have been Trump 1 that I would want to call. I would not rely on law enforcement to tell me, like, they're going to tell me everything. Sometimes they didn't even know anything that was going on. Sometimes law enforcement was calling me and telling me, don't tell anyone I'm calling you. But I don't like what I'm seeing in Riverhead, or I don't like I'm seeing these unmarked cars. But the reality is that now the language that's being used to try to throw us off is that, oh, that's part of an ongoing investigation, like the guy they took from East Hampton. And so we want to know, why is law enforcement anywhere in that vicinity? Why are they guarding unless, they say that law enforcement is called in if they think there's going to be like other casualties, shooting or something like that. But these are not necessarily the situations. So if local law enforcement is being used in any way and the resources of whatever town are being used to aid this ICE action, but saying words like this is an ongoing investigation, but yet certain people that are either in leadership are not able to talk about it. They can only share this, they can share that. We're in a place where every damn thing you don't want to know about is on the blogger, but now you're pulling people out of neighborhoods, and now suddenly you can't talk about that. So this idea of transparency suddenly now being not okay, now we don't get to have that transparency. So that's the piece where the language and how they're kind of pulling people apart so that reasonable people say, well, they said it's part of an ongoing investigation, so it's not what we can be taken right now.
Oh boy. Thank you. That's an important distinction to bring up, the use of language, the perversion of language. So Osman, please, your reaction to that, and also I'm wondering if you could talk about what you see as any differences in ICE's presence in Western Suffolk versus Nassau and maybe Queens, if you can comment on that.
Sure. Thank you, and thank you again. And it's a pleasure to be here with all of you. Um, so as we all know, it's a lot happening on Long Island since this new administration took office. The first the first few months of the year, we dedicated time to go out on the streets and share Know Your Rights information, red cards on laundromats, supermarkets, all over as many places as possible. I know many other groups are doing that. Um, I myself distributed over 10,000 of red cards, Know Your Rights cards. Um, with the help of many individuals, some of them in this call here. Thank you all so much. I see my friend Susan Steinman, a fearless advocate, has been on the streets with us as well. Um, the first time I became in close contact with ICE officers was in June in Wyandotte. We got alerted that they were outside our home. We rushed there and they were had surrounded our house. Two officers on the back trying to get to the back door and two officers on the front. There were two or three kids watching to the window terrorized. We kept chanting, "Do not open the door, do not open the door." The family inside gave us a thumbs up that they were not going to open the doors. Um, we stayed there until they left. They obviously lied to us. Um, they tried to, say, "Oh, this person ran the stop sign, so we were chasing him, and that's what we're here for." A big lie. Um, some of them were wearing masks. Some of them were wearing FBI vests on. Some of them were wearing police jackets. So that's also a way for them to, trick people, right? Because they don't know who these people are. If I see FBI, oh well, they're doing an investigation, so I must cooperate and open the door, right? Or if I see police, it's local police. I have to open the door to local police, right? So that same day when they left, we got notice that they were in Brentwood. We arrived to Brentwood. They had made an arrest already. When we arrived to this very common deli called La Placita, we arrived there and they were just coming in, about 4 or 5 cars coming into La Placita parking lot. They went out of La Placita. They saw two workers working outside a house on a fence, and they went to them, surrounded them, and start asking them questions. Like Minerva said, they have a photo of someone they're pretending they're looking for. Who knows? And they say, "Do you know this person?" They say no. So if they say no, why do you keep asking them questions, right? They kept asking them questions. We kept chanting not to answer any questions. People that were inside the deli heard us and they came out also and chant with us. So the whole community at that moment came and chant with us. They left, and I really think that if we and people from the community were not there at that moment, they probably would have taken those two workers, because you could see they were ready to take those two workers. Um, that was back in June. We have seen them and I have seen them multiple times. So just so you know, every morning my messenger starts blowing up at 5:30 in the morning, 6 in the morning, with people from all over the island giving me information that they have seen them in the community. They have seen cars outside parked waiting for workers to leave their homes, and that's how they get them. Now we don't. We used to see them coming into the house, knock on the door, they open the door, and they arrest whoever they find in the house, right? Like they did to Sarah in Mastic with her mom, and individuals that had no record, no criminal record, had nothing. They were in the process of getting their green cards and they were taken, and now they're back in Colombia. Um, so they, like Minerva said, they are targeting individuals, but they also are detaining individuals that are standing on Home Depot looking for a job. They have done that multiple occasions in Huntington, in Colpay, in Freeport, in Westbury. In Westbury, they arrive there every week. There is, well, at least once a week they stop to Westbury and take at least two workers every time they arrive to Westbury. Um,
I'm
in
sorry,
terms,
Osman, it's a quick question. Do you
yeah,
see an acceleration of ICE presence in Western Suffolk and in Nassau? Like,
yes. Yes, and what I have what I have noticed is that they obviously most of you know the cooperation between Nassau County Police and ICE 287G agreement that this administration put in place back in February. Um, we have seen also an impact of that as well. I myself noticed that there's a lot more police activity as well. And I get a lot of reports from a lot more reports than Suffolk from community members saying my loved one was pulled over by police, by Nassau County Police. While we were waiting for the tickets, the ICE officer showed up and they were taken.
Hmm.
Some of them are back in their home countries. There was a story of three women that were on their way to work. They got pulled over and arrested by, obviously, the Nassau County Police pulled them over and called ICE on them. And one of them is already back in Honduras. The other two are still in the detention facility in Texas. Other families have reached out to me as well with similar stories as well. Also, we saw it in Port Washington and Gretna area. We have seen actual Nassau County with their badges arresting people, okay, cooperating with ICE.
So is
Uh,
is the Suffolk County Police Force also cooperating with ICE?
Here is the tricky part, right? Not formally, not publicly. Obviously, you ask them, they say no, we do not. Everyone says no, no, no. But there are community members that tell us otherwise, right? That uh, and there are some details that I know of that have seen cooperation between police and ICE in Suffolk County, not as much as Nassau County, that I can say. But yes, there are some. They are, from what I see in it, they are doing it in a different way. Not directly as Nassau County, but there is some collaboration.
Minerva, you want to say something to that, please?
Yeah, just because Suffolk County doesn't cover the east end of Long Island. So in terms of the 10 independent law enforcement agencies across the eastern part of Suffolk, um, there have been actions that happened a few months ago where we had called local law enforcement. I'm not going to say the town right now, but they were doing some kind of registration, seatbelt check or whatever it was. They were doing one of those situations, but ICE was right there in the same parking lot. So in terms of like who called who set that party up, I don't know. But in terms of that, the law enforcement sees ICE as law enforcement. Whether it's the greatest law enforcement agency that you're working with on the east end of Long Island, there's not one person in there that's not going to say that's also law enforcement. So when we're trying to like disentangle and talk about what towns and villages need to do, we need to recognize that that is how law enforcement, they see each other in the same light. But when we start talking about, but what is your mission? What is my mission? Right. And if we're going to keep hearing over and over again, we got to keep people safe. We got to keep people safe. The idea for me, and maybe it's just a language thing or whatever, is that, are you telling me that you think our local law enforcement hasn't kept people safe? Do I walk to my car at Guildhall with my keys sticking between my fingers as I'm ready for someone to mug me? I mean, the reality is that we are so much less safe than we have ever been in terms of what is happening with our families, our children going to school, less access, people not going to doctors' offices, not reporting crimes as victims or as witnesses, all these kinds of scenarios, the kinds of abuses and exploitation that's happening in the workforce, the levels that are going up because of people fearing going to law enforcement. They don't want to have their name out there, so it's not even that they feel they just don't want to be on any kind of record. And so everyone that abuses other people or exploits them knows that it's prime time for picking off people. And that's what's going on right now. So right now, at least our advocacy team, it's a quadruple since January 2025 in calls out for help. So whether it's wage theft, the highest numbers we've ever seen in wage theft, violence against women, the work happening in illegal evictions, that has been a crime since 2019, a misdemeanor since 2019, but is not actively pursued or said as such for local law enforcement. If someone's being illegally evicted out of their home, there are ways to identify that that's not just a civil issue, it's a crime, and yet it's not being enforced in such a way. So these folks are getting scared and threatened out of their homes, and they're either living on the street or they're going from home to home to home. And then we've got our local school districts that are not abiding by McKinney-Vento in a consistent way, or they're asking renters to present information that is way above and beyond what New York State Ed has ever asked for. So that's
I'm
denying
sorry,
education to children.
could you explain what that is so that everybody in the call understands that? Thank you.
Sure. So McKinney-Vento is an act, it's a law that says that if you, for a number of reasons, a whole spectrum of being homeless or even transitional. So if you're going to school in a school district, let's say you're going to East Hampton, and you had a fire in your house, so you have to go stay with your aunt in Hampton Bays. So during that time frame, whatever that might be, a couple of months, East Hampton School District has to bus you to and from their district because that's where you were at. It could be that your parents are, there was a fight. It could be domestic violence. It could be mold. It could be a number of things. But what we're seeing is that as long as it's transitional, so you're not planning to stay there, and people are not trying to mess with that. They're not like, oh, well, I'm just looking for housing. It's hard. So I want to stay in the district, but I'm really not going to stay in the district. People aren't doing that. They're renting, and we know how hard it is to rent out here. But if something's happened, we had a recent thing in a district where a roof had to be fixed. And the landlord, this only happened a couple of weeks ago. Landlord said, you're going to have to be out for a couple of months. I'm going to fix the roof, and then I'm going to want to have you back in. So this family went from this one district about a town over, and they talked to the school about it. They said, this is, we're going to need transportation. And they were told immediately by a social worker who was a native Spanish speaker. And it has a lot to do with what the messaging that's coming from from the top, right? And she said, oh no, that doesn't count for McKinney-Vento because it's not catastrophic. That's not in the definition of McKinney-Vento. So this kind of information, so this child was taken, immediately wiped out of the roll book for the school. She'd been going to school there 3 years. And now she's wiped out. The mother takes her to register in this other district thinking she had to do that. They say, no, you can't register here. You're only here temporarily. Go back to the other district. They go back with our help and find out that they wiped them from the rolls. We had to get them registered all over 2 weeks. This child, I think she's 14, out of school for 2 weeks. So these kinds of things are not only horrible, they go unanswered so much of the time, and there's no accountability. So the scary thing right now is with all these Trump threats and whatnot about less and less, and I'm sure Osman knows all about this, all the safety for immigrant students. But if you're threatening FERPA and saying FERPA is like HIPAA for students in school, but if you're saying, oh, that's not going to count anymore for immigrant children, can you imagine sort of the hellscape that we're creating for our families and our children? But they're all interconnected. All of these things related to these raids and these actions, and where our institutions are falling down over and over again, is creating the most unsafe environment that we've ever seen.
So thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And, it's heartbreaking to think of this young girl being just, jerked around so unnecessarily and, so horribly. I just want to ask you a question because you dealt with the police during Trump 1.0, the East and Southampton and the other townships. Could you characterize the differences between their interaction with ICE, if there are differences?
Town by town, village, not really. They were locking arms, and it all had to do with administrative warrants. As soon as our sheriff of Suffolk County said yes to administrative warrants, which was against the Constitution of the United States of America, I thought that each of our local East End chiefs, all 10 of them, would say, no way, we got a great thing here. We're not going to do that. And they told me, each one of them to my face, that if the sheriff did it, they're probably going to do it too. And it took 2.5 years before, basically NYCLU helped to win that suit. And now it's a $60 million settlement against Suffolk County. Why our East End wasn't also incorporated in that, I can't take on those suits. It's not what I can do. I can't handle that with Ola. But the East End of Long Island kind of got off scot-free in that regard. And I don't necessarily think that was fair. I mean, Suffolk County should pay their dues, but the East End of Long Island completely went along with it. I don't care if they held someone for 30 minutes out of the 48 hours that was originally the plan. They said yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. So, you just talked about the impact on the family. So I'm going to pivot to Osman and hear from you. If you could talk about the impact. You mentioned so many situations where people have been picked up and then, within 24 hours or 48 hours, they're back in Honduras, they're back in another country. And obviously they may have left behind family, children, aunts, uncles. Talk about the impact on the families that you have been engaged with, please.
Yeah, so I mean, since the administration took office, it started to impact families, kids that didn't know what's going to happen with their parents, right? They go to school and not knowing that they're going to come back home if their parents will be there. So it started early on the year, since the administration took office. Um, and then when this started to happen, family workers started to be detained. Uh, Unfortunately, children are coming home to an empty house without one of their parents. Um, One of the moments that really hit me was during June graduations, that a lot of parents had messaged me that they were so scared to go to their children's graduation and they were looking for someone to go in their place. That was very, very powerful, and I just couldn't believe that moment, that we are now living in that moment where parents are afraid to go to their children's graduation because of fear of ICE and them being taken. Several volunteers volunteer their time to monitor the areas. Some of the volunteers volunteer their time to accompany the parents to the graduations. We help with that. Um, a lot of us monitor areas where graduation were being held. Um, Thank God we didn't get reports of any incidents, but there were a lot of parents that did not go to their kids' graduation this year. Very sad. Um, they are, and now it's happening where parents are being taken from their way to drop off their kids to school. That happened in Brentwood a couple of weeks ago. That had happened in Westbury also a couple of months ago. And that continues to happen also in Freeport, where parents are being taken. What they describe is in Brentwood, for example, this happened maybe 2 weeks ago, where they follow them to the school, they let the parent drop off their kids, and then on their way back, they got him and they took him. Um, so yeah, it is happening. Parents are not sending their kids to school when they are alerted that ICE is in the community. They are not sending their kids to school. So we have teachers with empty classrooms or half empty classrooms because their students are not showing up for school. We have workers not showing up for work because they are afraid to leave their homes. So this not just impact our immigrant community, but also impact our entire community, because now there are businesses not able to function because their workers are not coming into work, or their workers are being detained, like they did, there was a post from a restaurant in East Merrill. The favorite bartender showed up to court at Federal Plaza for a hearing on their asylum case, and he was taken in. Um, and then customers are asking, where's our favorite bartender? Their favorite bartender is back in Honduras because he was deported while showing up to court. So and I want to mention this. This is not about illegal immigration, right? In quotes, right? That they say, right? Undocumented immigration. So these are individuals that are going through the process. These are individuals like Sarah and her mother that are on the process of getting their green cards. These are TPS holders. These are DACA students, like a student, a young man from Riverhead that was detained a few months ago. He had DACA and he was taken. Okay, so they're not going like we hear on them saying going after criminals. That is just a big lie that they made up.
Right. No, thank you for pointing that out. I mean, it's so infuriating that, law-abiding citizens are just being, swept up, and it's because there's a quota. Minerva, I think you want to make a comment to that. Please add. Oh, you are muted. Let me.
With that, I know that Osman and his volunteers are also, I think, supporting this and doing this, but it's a heartbreaker. It's the worst thing you want to do, but we're recognizing that when we can, as long as we can do it in a thoughtful way, helping people to prepare an emergency plan is a difficult, really difficult thing to do, but also an important one because even if there are a few things in order, going through that process is one that either can give some clarity to a situation. In one case, it actually, a mom decided that it was too difficult to even consider, so she took her daughter and went back, which was awful, but she was not, even though the scenario, she wasn't even going to think about that having to happen. With one of the people that we're working with, who had not had one crime at all, been in the country for 20 years, his children, one of whom has kidney cancer, still every single 2 weeks we've got to bring him to Syosset, and we do not dare send him alone. I mean, not even that we pretend that we have any power over the situation, but having someone there and knowing that he's got a lawyer, and every single 2 weeks he shows up with all the paperwork, showing all the agreements and all the plans and all the rest of it. And then the other thing I want to share is that this woman, who, again, law-abiding, she reported crime, really heinous act of domestic violence, really bad, horrible case. And she did what she was supposed to do, well, to keep herself and her child safe. And she reported it. It went all the way through where they arrested the man. They actually deported the man. And now she should have one of the strongest U visa cases ever. And she does have a U visa case, but they're throwing that out. They're not agreeing to her appeal. And so we thought we would get her to the point with a lawyer that they would say, okay, we're going to give you more time to really kind of look through this whole U visa case, because we had everything. We had the U visa, the U cert from law enforcement. They arrested the guy, they deported the guy, all this kind of stuff. And at the end of the day, they said, yeah, you know what? Nope, your last day is X date. You have to be on an airport, and when you get to the airport, we're going to take off the ankle bracelet. And that's how, but meanwhile, the family of the man that she deported by sharing this with law enforcement was already threatening her, waiting for her in this other country. So this woman and a child left with the kind of horrible choice that, what do you do? And I'm not going to go beyond that to say that what a god awful choice. So we were actually starting to look at, are there other countries? Are there other ways? Are there other ways to get her to other parts of her own country where we could then set up either a safe house in this other part of this other country so we can maintain some sort of safety? Do we have to do that next? I mean, we are looking absolutely at Underground Railroad type of situations, but those are the kind of scenarios where people cannot be safe in this country. So can we keep them safe somewhere else? And some of these other countries, she did not feel safe in the town that she was going to have to go back to. But these are scenarios that we are weighing and considering. And I mean, it can't be every single country, but even if it's one space at a time, what is it going to take to create safety for a situation like that for this woman and her child?
It's just so gut-wrenching. For the audience, Minerva, could you explain what the UV visa is, so that everybody knows what you're speaking to?
Well, at the moment, it is still a lawful visa to pursue. I have no faith in what this administration is doing to our laws in our country. But for the moment, U visa it covers a certain type of crime, usually a violent crime. There are other kinds of crimes in there as well. You'd have to look it up. But domestic violence and other violent crimes are definitely part of that, so that if you're a victim of that crime and you cooperate with law enforcement, it doesn't have to mean that it leads to a conviction or a deportation or anything like that. But if you're cooperating with law enforcement at a certain point, the immigration lawyer, and which someone should have, people should not be doing things without immigration lawyers. And I know it's very hard to get them, but it's still a needed thing, is that they could get a certification from that law enforcement agency that that person did in fact cooperate. And then they apply for this visa that is backlogged at least 10 years. But it had been the thought that, okay, you have a strong U visa case, it's going to take time, but you're in process, meaning that you're doing this a lawful way, just as Osman said. And that, it doesn't mean that if you do something else that's something wrong, you've got a DWI or a second DWI, that other things might happen, but you're in a process and you're doing it the right way. And then that doesn't protect you either. So, but U visa is that, and a T visa is for trafficking. And I believe that still might be a valid form of relief. So the T visa and the U visas VAWA is also a pathway if you're married. So if you're married and your spouse is abusing you, it's a Violence Against Women Act. But of course, it's for men or women or any person of any gender or non-binary who is a victim of this domestic violence. VAWA would be potentially a pathway.
Thank you. No, thank you for explaining that. That's very helpful. Um, Osman, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about, I mean, there's so many individuals that both of you have identified who have been caught in this really lawless trap of ICE. They're not following any laws. But what advocates exist on Long Island that are helping these people legally, and then also otherwise, maybe with funding for the families if the breadwinner has been deported. So I'm thinking of NYCLU possibly, but Osman, maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Yes, there are several organizations in other parts of Long Island that are providing assistance to the families to if they have questions, legal questions. Unfortunately, it's very extremely limited in terms of legal defense for deportation. Once the person is detained and is in deportation proceedings, unfortunately, it's very difficult then. An organization, may not be able to assist. They may try to get an attorney to do a pro bono, but just imagine nowadays getting a pro bono attorney is impossible because of so many cases that they're seeing. They have no time to take pro bono case. So it's very difficult. There are organizations like Canales, someone mentioned Canales, Catholic Charities. There is also the Long Island Immigrant, I'm forgetting the term, Immigrant Legal Center, I believe it
I
is,
think so,
in
yeah.
Brentwood.
Mhm.
Sisters of St. Joseph runs that organization. And those are probably the three that comes to my mind right now that provide legal advice if family have questions about their cases, if they need to renew some sort of application, they may be able to assist. Every case is different. They also have limited capacity. They may be placed on a waiting list. I have seen families that are placed on the waiting list because obviously they're nonprofits, they're very limited. They may have one attorney, right? And they receive so many requests. So it is very difficult. Nowadays. But yes, they are those organizations doing amazing work throughout Long Island as well. So we refer families to those organizations. Talking about families, we also been assisting families in putting together a power of attorney and assigning legal guardianships to their children. When I opened registration for that, I had to close registration the next day because so many families were registering to get that service. I had to close it the next day because it was just too many. We couldn't hold so many families. We couldn't assist. But we did refer some families to Carecen that is assisting with that as well. But many families are doing that. They are assigning a legal guardian in case they are being detained. There is someone that can make legal decisions for their children. There are many families also planning to leave or have left already, have self-deport. I have seen a lot of those cases as well. Very unfortunate, but it's happening right now as well.
Mm. And what about organizations that might take in contributions that could help the families here that might need resources, for all different types of needs?
Yeah, I'm sure all those organizations like that I mentioned and all take contributions for individuals to be able to assist families with groceries, with clothing for their kids, school supplies. All of them are assisting with that as well. If anyone wants to reach out to me, I also get a lot of requests from families for, mostly I get requests for the legal aspect, right? And I'm not a lawyer, so I try to just connect them with legal organizations and some pro bono attorneys that I trust, that I know. And unfortunately, it's very unfortunate. In most cases, once the person is detained, there's really not much they can do anymore. As we all know, there is no bond being issued, right, for people to be released with a bond. In most cases, not every case, obviously, every case is different. So there may be some cases that are being released with bond, but most cases, I'm being told by attorneys, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do. But yes, if someone wants to reach out to me, I am posting my email as well. I am in contact with families. I thank God that I have gained that trust with the community as well, and a lot of families reach out from all over Long Island, from all over Long Island. Just today, just aside from the family from Riverhead, that was the first alert I got at 6 a.m. 6:06. I just checked the video that came in from Riverhead. 6:06 in the morning, they were detaining these two workers on their way to work in Riverhead. They also detained two workers in Freeport. The family reached out to me as well. Two workers that were standing outside Home Depot were detained today as well. I was also notified later when I was coming from work. A worker was detained in Roosevelt today. And also, I was also with a family via text message. Their son showed up to federal court today at 10:30 a.m. The mom was texting me, my son is not responding. His phone, my son is not responding. I don't know what's going on. Later, at about 2, 3 o'clock, she messaged me and she said he just called me and he was taken in.
Oh boy.
So that is happening. There are other places on Long Island that also there have been some cases of people being taken. That is Syosset. Minerva mentioned Syosset. There are people that are being taken by ICE from that office. Some people leave that office with an ankle monitor as well. Also in Bethpage, there is another office in Bethpage. There is also the fingerprint office in Hopart. And there is also USCIS office in Hawksbill. I also have received families that their loved one had been taken from those offices as well. So those are offices on Long Island.
Wow. Shocking. Thank you, though, for sharing that. And so just to clarify, Kerrison and Catholic Charities and Long Island Immigration Legal are three organizations that people could donate to.
Enola,
And of
Enola.
course, Ola. And I'm going to have Minerva.
No, I wanted to clarify just the legal piece of something, but the donation, everything that Osman said and whatever else you're going to say, Catherine, I wanted to talk about the legal aspect of things.
Oh, yes, sure, absolutely. And I just wanted to clarify that those three charities are what Osman mentioned. And also, I just want to mention, Osman, someone posted in the chat that you should set up a GoFundMe yourself to help you help families. And I'm not sure if you've considered that or considered us making a small nonprofit, but that suggestion has been put out there. So, Minerva, please continue.
So I just wanted to clarify because Osman might not, and I say this carefully because if he doesn't know it, Osman, we're here, East End of Long Island. So anyone living on the East End of Long Island, we have 2 full-time immigration lawyers working for OLA. Nothing we do, we charge for. So these are always pro bono. It's a mix of a full rep, also pro se, because that is a model that works if it's done well. It doesn't just mean that you give someone a couple of words of advice and send them into court by themselves. We're doing full country conditions. We're translating documents. We're getting psychosocial evaluations done for free, helping to build the strongest possible case they can have. Let's say it's asylum, and they're able to go in pro se. That means without a lawyer on record, but we're helping them package their case in the strongest way possible. We take that decision very carefully. So we don't take a pro se that we don't think we can do really effective work for. We also are doing full rep, and that could depend on certain situations. Also depends on certain judges. The good thing about immigration lawyers is they have a very tight network for each other. If you say you've got a case with Judge Smith, everyone is going to know what happened with Judge Smith recently. Tell me a story about Judge Smith. They might decide that Judge Smith is not a good person to do pro se with. They might then have another reason to push to have a full rep situation. We're also we're really focusing a lot on our legal defense fund for OLA. So that for us, that's a combination of our immigration legal work and our advocacy work. So when working with victims of wage theft and housing fraud and all that, the team that we have, which is 5 people that are part of advocacy, and I think now we have 4 people that are part of our immigration team. What does it take to run that? So we have 2 immigration lawyers. One is mainly focused because it's a grant through IJC on SIJ cases. We've got a lot of SIJ cases, and SIJ is special immigrant juvenile status. So those are usually children. And we know from the recent order that got released, which is Operation Freaky Friday, which is targeting children as young as 11 years old to receive a letter from ICE that would say, if you don't self-deport 11-year-old kid, we are now going to arrest your parents. So that is something that got released, and it was real. We got all kinds of confirmation from all of the right parties, Acacia and all the rest of them, that was actually something that it was launched. It was launched a few weeks ago. So the reality is we've got 2 full-time immigration lawyers. We've also just hired a full-time immigration paralegal who is actually a practicing lawyer from Venezuela, but had to leave Venezuela. And so we've got this team, and we cannot do the thing that I've seen too many happen too often, which is you take on too much and you can't do what you're doing, right? These cases require a lot of work. Every single case is blown up to require 10 times more than what it required 4 years ago, So we're taking cases very carefully, but we are still considering all cases and all scenarios. We usually have people give us some information, and then we have our lawyers get back to them to kind of decide, can we take it, can we not? We are always in contact with Canales, and they're in contact with us. And so we're doing the best we can, but it is an East End based thing, and it is always pro bono. I wanted to say one more thing about bonds. We've learned about a company, and I'm forgetting the name, but Osman, or anyone, if you're learning that someone actually is getting a bond, there's an organization that will do it completely for free, so that person, if they can get a bond, there is no money to pay back. There's no money. Is that they're going to go in, they're going to come back. They're not a flight risk. And they can do these bonds. So that's a really important company that we found. And then in terms of, we do these temporary designations as well for parental status. We are not using powers of attorney unless it's something that has really been determined the only way to do it. We are using something that is an OCFS, Office of Children and Family Services document that is absolutely agreed to by schools and also by healthcare. So that you can use that document. What it does is it allows the parent to verbally revoke it at any time. You don't want to have a situation where someone is got a power of attorney, or they go to court to give custody of their kids over to somebody else, and then they can't revoke it. Our thing over and over again is, how does this get revoked so that parents are not losing custody of their own children? The other big thing in that dynamic when people put together those emergency plans is many of them tell us what they really want to do is have that designated parental person, which sometimes isn't even a family member. They're just, because they don't have any citizens in their families or what have you. They want that person to put their child on a plane and send them to grandma, right? So if we're putting together that emergency plan, we're looking at all aspects of that. Does the child have travel documents to get into that foreign country? Maybe they were born here in the US. Can they get into that foreign country? What is it going to take? What travel document? There's a separate travel document that's needed for the parent to have filled out in advance to get that child on a plane to go to that country. And then with everything else, you might have to learn about that. So all of these temporary designations are done with all of those issues in front of you, even in terms of, do parents have does one parent have custody but not the other parent, making sure that those documents are going to hold water if they're taken to the school or taken to a healthcare official that says, no, wait a minute, you don't have custody. I already have a document from the court. So walking through all of those issues is something that we do. We have not been doing it in large groups, but kind of like one off, because it becomes a very emotional conversation. So we're just doing it family by family.
Wow. Wow. I mean, thank you for just laying that all out for us, Minerva, because I mean, so few of us, who are citizens, have an understanding of the intricacies that are involved in what you're taking care of in helping these families figure out a plan. I mean, it's both heartbreaking and exhausting work. So we really appreciate what you're doing there. There's a question in the chat. Prina wants to know, and we'll be getting to all the questions shortly. Jerry Maslanka, who's a peer on the peer leadership group, will be monitoring the chat, and we'll start in a minute. But Minerva, do you have a list of volunteer assistants that you need from volunteers who speak Spanish and those who don't? Like, do you have like categories of volunteers you're looking for?
Yeah, we have a range, and and the tough thing is that we just ask you, reach out. We're probably going to give you some kind of QR code. It's not to be annoying. It's because we really, from that information, we start learning. Some people are available, but they're not available in a consistent time frame, or there's certain things they can do or can't do. And then we try to like reach out when we have something that fits that kind of category. But the kind of overall thing that we see over and over again, this gentleman that we've got to take every single 2 weeks to Syosset, we don't just grab any volunteer for that. We're talking to someone, we're kind of training them on what happens at the ISAP office. That's the office that Osman mentioned. Someone could be taken from that office, so we want a volunteer that's ready to kind of handle a scenario that might not be what they're ready for. But it's getting that person all the way to the office, waiting for them in that very uncomfortable space, and God willing, taking them back home again. But driving people to and from doctor's appointments, accompanying people to even for the employment, the work permit. It used to be a much easier process during an asylum process. You can do that, but now they're creating these separate appointments to go into Riverhead to the Social Security office that people are not feeling comfortable at all to do. So trying to have people that can go and accompany people to those Social Security offices. Court observation, huge. And it's not going to sound huge or feel huge, but it is. A lot of our courts operate pretty darn well. But what we see on the east end of Long Island is our court systems on the east end of Long Island are not part of the New York State Unified Court System. That means something. It means the way that they operate is not under the same exact guidelines that it is for the rest of mostly Western Suffolk or New York State Unified Court System. So we know that because we're part of a couple different groups on that. So having people in the court in the second row, whether it be for landlord tenant or traffic tickets or what have you, with a pen and paper, because you can't bring your phone, and just writing what it is you see, noticing the things that you notice. You get them back to Ola. And if we're seeing something that's out of whack or you think it's out of whack, we can then either foil for or get the transcripts from that court activity. We can learn what might be going on in terms of, a process that's maybe not handling the right way, or maybe we could just jump in to support a family that we know is just going to fall apart right now based on maybe lawful practices, but there's nothing set up to support them because they're all undocumented. They're sure as heck not going to go to DSS if there's a housing situation going on. So we have 10 court systems out here. So that kind of thing, and a host of others, but we just need consistency. We just don't need someone that can, every time we reach out, everyone's busy, but I mean, if someone's going to reach out and say, yeah, I really want to support, maybe we'll give a list of things that are really important. And that's kind of what I have to do right now. I can't really craft the
Okay.
perfect experience, but
Yeah,
that's it.
no, I get that. No, thank you. Thank you. And, someone asked in the chat if there was a similar Western Suffolk organization. And Osman, if you want to maybe talk a little bit about that, that would be helpful. And then we'll go to questions after that.
Sure. Yes, they are, like I mentioned, several organizations, and we are, connected and working together as well, referring individuals and trying to assist as much as possible. Yes, we are connected. So if anyone would like to volunteer right now, as we can, so you all know, what we need is it's individuals that are willing to be part of the rapid response. And there are different ways that you can assist, not just, if you're not comfortable going out to witness where ICE is arresting someone and did what I do, that's okay. You don't have to do that, right? There are other ways that you can assist. Maybe the family needs to someone to buy groceries for them because they cannot leave home. We need volunteers to do that. Maybe they need to go to a doctor's appointment and they're afraid to go by themselves. Maybe someone can accompany them. Or I have gotten requests also for Hawksbills and those other locations that I mentioned for people to accompany them. I have gotten requests for that as well. So if anyone is available that day and time, we will assign you to be there with that family. And of course, if you are willing and able, and now obviously there's trainings going that we can do, and in order for you to become a rapid response volunteer, to monitor ICE activity, and know everything as to what you need to do if you decide to sign up to be out there monitoring the neighborhoods and on the streets. mornings and afternoons, or during the day if you're available. It's whatever time you have available. You don't have to commit for a longer period of time. You don't worry. We understand that we all have lives, and so you don't have to commit the whole day to be a volunteer out on the road. But yes, we do need volunteers to do all those things. So please send me an email if you're interested in assisting. I also want to mention a case that I assist a family. You might have seen on Newsday the death of Santos Vanegas Reyes from Hempstead, who was detained in Hempstead, leaving a coffee shop from getting breakfast. He was detained and was taken to East Meadow. The next day, he was found unresponsive in his cell at 6:30 in the morning. I posted that announcement. The Newsday posted the news. I posted that Thursday, that morning was when he was found unresponsive. I posted that post, and a lot of people share it, and the family reached out to me. They at that moment they did not know that was their loved one because nobody had reached out to them. They never received a call from no one. The Yale at East Meadow, no calls from them, no calls from the hospital, no calls from ICE. They did not know that was their loved one. So that Saturday, I went with the family to the hospital, and the hospital sent us to the medical examiner's office. They brought the body to the room for them to recognize, and that's when they confirmed that that was their loved one that had died in ICE custody. Um, I helped the family with a fundraising page that they asked me to create, and thanks to the donations of many of you, we were able to fundraise over $18,000 for the family. And I really want to appreciate all of you that donated. You might have seen the post everywhere. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for donating. We delivered that money to the family. Santos, about a week or two ago, he was sent back to Honduras, and his body is already laying in Honduras. The daughter in Honduras was able to say, her goodbyes to Santos. They did a funeral service here in Hempstead. I was there, and at that moment, I handed in the money to the family. They are very grateful for the support of the community. But that is what's happening. This is not just one. There are many other cases throughout the country of individuals that have died in ICE custody. Someone posted a flyer of an auction that's being held outside Home Depot that is in memory of another person that had died, not in New York State, but in another area, not on Long Island, but also one of others that had died in ICE custody. I also assisted a family in Huntington when their loved one, their son, was detained leaving 7-Eleven. He was brutally attacked by ICE. There is a video. That was the video I was going to show, but I decided to show this other one. I went to the hospital. At that same moment, the family came to try to see their son. They were denied access to the hospital. They called the police. You probably saw the photo on Newsday of the police blocking the entrance of the family and myself trying to get into the hospital. 5 days later, the family was able to get a hold of their son. They didn't know anything of their son. He was in the hospital for about 5-6 hours that Sunday, and they didn't know anything as to what happened to their son until that Thursday of that next week. So this is just additional stories of what's happening.
No, no, thank you for sharing it. It's so important that these stories get out because the truth needs to be known, and we need to have these stories. We need to share these stories, as heartbreaking as they are. So thank you for mentioning both of those horrible situations. Jerry, I'm going to ask to go to you in a moment, but before that, I just want to let the group know that there is also another organization that reached out to me today to ask me to just share a little bit about what they do. And they're called Alianza Islip. And they're like a community group, not unlike some of the other groups that have been mentioned. And they are there to help the local immigrant population in Brentwood, Bayshore, and Central Islip. And the services that they offer are mutual aid, food, transportation, and clothing, some legal assistance, and translation and interpretation. And I'll drop in the chat Stephanie Cerizzo's email or the email for their group so that if you want to get in touch with them, you can. And again, it's Alianza Islip. So again, thank you, Minerva and Osman. There's a lot of questions. There's a lot of good information in the chat too. So I encourage everybody, save the chat so that you can hang on to that information and that you can have all the contacts that you need going forward. Jerry, are you with us? Can you ask the first question?
Yes, I can. And I just want to mention, Catherine, that you've gotten very quiet. Something's happened with the volume of you speaking, just so you know that. Okay, I'm going to ask, I think I tried to unmute Susan Steinman. She's asking about Zoom sessions for court. Minerva or Osman, do you have any knowledge about, is that happening? Susan seems to feel it is. Can we talk about that?
It's not happening for all cases. So in terms of change of venue or making it a remote venue instead of an in-person venue, the key there oftentimes is there's an immigration lawyer kind of connected to some of that, or at least guiding it, even if it's an immigration lawyer, doesn't have to be the one filing whatever needs to be filed in terms of paperwork, but at least some sort of guidance. But they're not always being awarded or agreed to by judges.
No, I know Corazon has been doing that, and they're asking people to come to their office to do it because they said it has to be done with an attorney there. So they're urging people to come to their office and arranging it. I don't know all the P's and Q's of it, but I do know that they're doing some at their office.
Yeah, no, they're still happening. They're not always agreed to by the judge, is all I'm saying. But yeah, we do them as well. We haven't really been engaging volunteers too much on that. We've been kind of taking them right now, but if we get to a point where we feel like there's a good system to it, there are other things that we're engaging some volunteers with. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Regarding guardianship, Allison is asking, who can become guardians if the children are left without a parent?
Osman? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So from what I know, obviously it has to be an adult, over the age of 18. We recommend assigning someone that is a U.S. citizen. This way, these children are safe and with someone that is here with a status and with no risk of being deported. But like Minerva mentioned, a lot of times families don't have someone in their immediate family that is a U.S. citizen, so they assign the guardianships or this document to someone that they know and they trust, a friend that is a U.S. citizen and they trust. So they assign to those individuals. But yes, it has to be someone that you know, someone that they trust, someone that is willing to take on that responsibility, because obviously it is a big responsibility that in case their the parents are detained and deported, now this person had to take that responsibility of caring for those children. Like we never said, a lot of times, most of the time, parents do want their kids to be sent back to their home country in case they are sent back. So they want that opportunity for someone to place them in the plane and send them back home to their home country.
I think the tricky thing with that, though, I'll just add is that I don't know if the person was asking it in this other regard, but if that has not been set up ahead of time and the child comes home to an empty home, and there isn't a way to, what we don't want to see is foster care. We don't want to see these kids going to these systems and either not fully being accounted for or the things that we've seen in the past. So the idea is so some of this rapid response
Yeah.
Even though we're not asking volunteers to ask someone in a household all these questions, we're certainly not going to do that. OLA team will be doing that if we can, but it could be that you see kids' toys that are out front of that house, and adults were taken. Did the child get sent down the street, because they knew that ICE was coming? Is there just a friend or a relative or a neighbor that at that moment has that child? So navigating those types of things hasn't been something that we've had to do yet, which is why we're really kind of focusing a lot on at least this temporary designation of parental status, to at least have something in play so that the child ideally doesn't miss too many beats. They're going to school, they have their doctor checkup, something is in order while everything else is being kind of figured out.
Okay. Pat, is it Chupe? If you're still on, I'm going to ask you to ask your question because it's rather complicated.
Okay. When you were talking before about, whether the ICE was cooperating or not cooperating with the regular police were cooperating or not cooperating with ICE. It was something that I had read that the local police force, especially if they're not cooperating, if ICE is breaking the law, like if they're just grabbing people and assaulting them and abducting them and they're not following the rules of law that they're supposed to follow as law enforcement officers, then they're subject to arrest just like anybody else would be for doing that. So it is possible for local police, if they're not cooperating, to actually, if citizens call about that happening, to arrest an ICE officer, if I'm not mistaken. That was, I just wanted to clarify that I had read that correctly, if anybody knew that. Now, I know law enforcement is loath to arrest their own, but I'm just talking about what the law, how the law goes.
I think it takes a certain kind of leadership to actually implement something like maybe Chicago, maybe California. Do I think that's going to happen on Long Island? Absolutely not. Do I think that our local law enforcement are going to have either the pressure or the support to take such an action? Absolutely not. I wouldn't be holding my breath. Yeah.
That was the next part of my question.
Sorry.
That people around here, if there were enough people to say, if you had enough people that were watching what were going on, to say that if the local law enforcement didn't enforce the laws, that we were going, the local people were going to start outing them to the public, to the papers or something like that. Do you think that would put pressure on the local police departments? Because I know I do know that the local police departments do not like to have any threat of it being in the papers about the officers having used like excess force or any of that type of thing against anybody. And the only reason I know is because I dispatched at police headquarters, and a couple of times complaints came in from outside, and the head brass was beside themselves. They were going crazy trying to figure out if it was true or if it wasn't true. It was like the whole inside of the place was turning upside down. So I know that is something that they do go nutso about. And that's why I was wondering if something pressure like that might have an effect, especially out on the East End, because that's where I saw it.
We get that. Minerva, what do you think?
I'm going to be super honest. I know this is being recorded, so I'm going to be honest and I'm going to be careful at the same time. The reality is that you have to have brave leadership that's going to stick with that. I don't mean to say that there aren't some leaders within law enforcement that would feel, or that honestly feel right now, that ICE is disrupting and making their community that they've worked so hard to keep safe less safe. They might believe that, but in terms of what it would take to have the kind of pressure, actual pressure, to kind of take an action like arresting another law enforcement officer, when if you were to ask them what are they doing, well, there's certain rights that they do have, that ICE has, that they're acting upon or that they believe they have. But a place like Chicago saying, if you roll into our town and you start going to people without warrants and pulling them out of their cars and arresting them. We're going to stop you from doing that. That's a level of heroism that we do not have out here. And it's not about having one little article in the New York Times even, or a local paper out here. It is having consistent applied pressure to do the right thing over and over and over again. And what we have out here are a lot of independent law enforcement agencies that, even though they are under the guidance, and they are, of our towns and our villages, they are only under their guidances, towns and villages. They do not report to Suffolk County Police. They do not report to a commissioner of police. They are all individual. Individually, they can do some really amazing work. But when it comes to this particular topic, if they're not going to have one agency, they wouldn't even stand down from the call to violate our Constitution for 2.5 years. You know, so the thing is that, yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that is what we need, but we need that to be pulled together in a way that the fabric of that is going to be so strong that we're locked into it, that every law enforcement agency feels the support and the pressure and the encouragement to do such a thing, or make sure that any kind of violation of the law, even if it's done by an ICE agent, is not enough. They're not going to stand for it. I would love to get to that place. We are not there.
Yeah.
And what I have gotten response from the times that I have seen police show up to, for example, when one of the women that I mentioned that was detained by ICE, a U.S. citizen, trying to record an arrest. What the police, I arrived there right shortly after she was released from the vehicle. I arrived to the location. The police was still there, and we start asking them, okay, what can you do to help? And they basically say, nope, we cannot intervene. We cannot get involved. They are federal officers. They have their own policies, they say, because we kept asking them, but they have no warrant to arrest this parent. There was a lady that was on their way with her 14 or 13-year-old son in the car, and she was taken. So we asked them, but they have no judicial warrant. Why can you do something about it? They say they are federal law enforcement. They have the right to be here, and they have their own policies, and we cannot do anything about it. That's what they say. Also, we have been in meetings with police commissioners, and that's what they say, that they cannot get involved because they're federal law enforcement. I have more faith in the community and the power of the people. I forgot to ask, I forgot to mention the difference between New York City and Long Island. As we all know it, we are very separated, right? And it's very difficult for us to get to a place quicker than in the city. In the city, they're more organized than Long Island. They are working more closely together, and it's easy for people to move from one place to the other in a very quick amount of time. Like Minerva said at one point, ICE now, their strategy is they go in, they pick up individuals, and they leave. It used to be that they will stay in the same community for the most of the day. Now they just go in, arrest people, and leave, because they know that there are people watching. And one thing that they hate is when we take out our cell phones and record them. That's one thing that they do not like. I have noticed that in all my times that I've been recording them, that they do not like that. They leave as soon as they see you take out your phone and start recording, they leave. And that's what we do. We take our phones and record them. In the Pacho video, you saw they have a camera. Now they're filming their activity for promotional purposes, probably, whatever, who knows, right? But yes, they do sometimes carry a big camera, a cameraman trying to interview people as to what's happening. They lie all the time. They lied to me on camera, as you saw the video. They say, we're not ICE. We're not ICE. What's your purpose here? They talk to individuals and they tell them, these are the worst of the worst that we're taking from your neighborhood. Aren't you happy that we're here? Don't you feel safe that we're taking criminals of your neighborhood? That's what they say. Okay, they lie all the time. So again, what we need is to mobilize people, for more volunteers to get involved some way or another, be connected and get involved, because right now we don't have that large number of volunteers like they have in California, in Chicago, in New York City. Unfortunately, Long Island is very different. We all know that, and we don't have that capacity, and we desperately need more volunteers to be involved and to sign up to be a volunteer.
Okay. Osman, I'll message it to you directly too, but the Methodist Church has a free immigration services as well. It's headquartered in New York City, but once a month they come out to the Hicksville United Methodist Church. It's immigration, law, and justice, and they have a number of attorneys. And it's in the chat, but I'll send it to you on your messenger directly. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
All right.
Minerva, you wanted to comment. I think you had your hand up. Was that right?
Yeah, and thank you. I'd like to find your information in the chat as well. I think I see it. Oh no, I want to find this so I can save it as well.
Post it again, Pat.
Yeah, if you could, I just want to see it and save it. The thing I just put in the chat, our volunteer training for Operation Stand and Protect, just for people to get a sense of what it is we're looking to do. I think that's up to date. There might be one thing that we've changed in that training, but essentially, because Long Island is so difficult, and forget about the summer, but just imagine this. If we had, because I hear what Osman sends me, I mean, I get what he's doing, he gets what we're doing. We're all connected. If we had the numbers, if we had everybody sign up for this, to the degree that you feel comfortable. And it could be that you never leave Southampton Village. You will never leave the boundaries of Southampton Village. But if you're able to get up and walk to the CVS where an action might be happening at a safe distance, and you're just texting into the line to let people know that are running a rapid response is, hey, this is what I'm seeing. The more people that we have that we're showing, listen, you can't lie and say that didn't happen, ICE. You can't lie and say there weren't 5 local law enforcement agencies helping and supporting that, and now we're going to find out why are you connected to that action. If there are ways that we can sort of corroborate and either stop something in the moment, or at the very least have some sort of accountability. We know that when crimes against humanity have happened and are happening right now, that they don't just end today. Whatever those courts are, whatever the Hague does, whatever we're going to do, whatever we have to do, we cannot step away from the fact that there needs to be accountability for these actions. And that's part of what we're doing. So if you can sign up or get other people you know to sign up, it doesn't have to just be the Ola one. It could be anyone or multiple ones that you want. Maybe it's just going to be, and you don't have to say yes to everything. You can just say yes to nothing. But if you're able to be outside your door and be able to support that, and we can know that we have the numbers that we need, because Osman and I know that we need big numbers to be able to say that we've got 2,000 people, 5,000 people. What do we have during the summer? We've got people that are out here, from their houses in the city. Have everybody ready to stand and show that they do not agree with this. And that is going to have its impact. And we know that we're in this weird little space, at least on the east end of Long Island. But if we can start showing that we're standing up for that, it can make a difference, And I think other people that are, whether they're elected officials or people that are running certain institutions, these kinds of things do matter, because when we get squashed and we get tired, bad things are going to happen. We can't afford to get tired. And the work that Osman's doing out there, I get tired just watching it, and the team that we have is exhausted, but we're not stopping. But we will be redoubled in our energies if we know that our community is with us.
Well, thank you, Minerva. And I just want to say, bless you and bless Osman for all the work that you're doing and all the people like you that are out there. I just want to let everybody know that I will, someone asked about saving the chat. They can't do it. If you can't do it, I'll send the chat to everybody who signed up and registered. And if you're on the call, you registered, so you will get the chat. It will have all the information. And someone in Rocco wants to know where the ICE centers are in Suffolk, and do ICE agents go directly from their home to the places where they're seizing people? Do you have any understanding of where does ICE muster in order to, come out and grab people off the street? Someone mentioned
they have been using firehouses. Osman, I don't know if they're still doing that. Western, they got a lot of flack for that. And Suffolk County, I know that our Suffolk County executive was allowing ICE to use their firing ranges and to do their trainings and whatnot. So I think that got pushed back. I don't know where that is right now, but I know they were using firehouse parking lots to stage themselves and all that. I haven't seen that much of it out in the east end of Long Island, but Osman, I don't know what you're seeing.
Yeah, no, you're right. They still use mainly firehouses to they gather in the morning or during the day to plan their day at outside firehouses. Also, in Central Islip Federal Courthouse, they people see them there all the time every morning. I get alert from people that they see them meeting there. That is that's their where they bring people when most of the time that someone is detained, they will bring them to Central Islip Federal Courthouse, that white building of the Southern State. Um, and they do have their an office. ICE has an office there. They process individuals there. And how I know this because people that has been detained and deported already, they are now messaging me and telling me their stories. This is where what they took me. They have an office on the fifth floor of the federal building in Central Islip. They detained us there for several hours, and then they were moved out to East Meadow or New York City. Um, but yes, those are the places, but mainly the firehouses is where they started. They not all the time. They also use other locations. Like the other day, they were using a Walmart in East Meadow. They were using the parking lot there as well. So whatever they see an empty parking lot, they'll meet there. But mainly firehouses. It's what they're using.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I think there are a couple more questions, but I think we're over time now, and I'm going to encourage people, if you didn't get your questions answered, both Minerva and Osman have put contact information in the chat so that you can get to them and get some questions answered. And we will continue to have meetings around this subject over the coming months, so I hope that you'll all come back when we do that. But I just want to give a great shout out to Minerva and Osman. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us tonight and all the good works that you're doing for our community. Blessings on all of you, on both of you. Thank you. Um, so any final words? Actually, if either of you would like to say anything,
I
you
just
did so
forgot
much.
to mention that people are also showing up to Nassau and Suffolk County legislature meetings. We need people at those meetings to speak up as well. It's one of the things that frustrates me and I'm so disappointed is our Democratic leadership has been silent since all this been happening. They just been silent all throughout. It's very disappointed. We know what the other side stands for, right? But the Democratic leadership on Long Island, who promised so many things to the community, who goes to the Latino community and try to speak in Spanish so they can win their votes. When we need them, they're not there. It's very disappointing, and we need to show up to those legislature meetings to speak up, because obviously this should not be allowed to be happening on our neighborhoods.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining us tonight. I dropped in the chat how you could join Peer if you're interested, but I will be sending out the chat to everybody so that you can get that information. We just so appreciate your good works, and we will stay in touch. Thank you all. Have a good night.